Alright, guys, I'm back with the Myth of Family Part 2. Obviously, I'm going to repeat myself, it's experimental. Um, there's aspects that I probably forgot, such as in the first one, I forgot the gold standard lore. I should have added that because that would have been perfect to have segued into how that became the the proxy of the resources to human ratio for their demographic status quo, which has been breaking down ever since. And so that's why the elites are hoarding their wealth, because they don't want to share it with a multicultural society, even though the elites are the ones um, who are sort of going along with the woke enough for it to rile up the radical bases that hate it, such as the far right, like the banks and the people that are doing these culture war things. Like some of it is honestly, it's a psyop. So, for instance, Brianna Wu. Anyways, what I called society's desperate projection, or Malthusian libido/fertility, is formed by the strange creation of myths, the diabolical dynamic of Freudian and Malthusian thought. Reverend Thomas Malthus, in 1798, author of Essay on Principle of Population, and Sigmund Freud, in 1930s, author of Civilization and Its Discontents, both powerful influences in modern thought, intersected on similar arguments for how society functions through sexual energy and urge resistance. Quote, for civilization to develop, people must repress their drives, suggests Freud. I don't know why that's boldened. Abstinence or moral restraint in the shadow of sterilization before marriage and heterosexual behavior. Malthus comparing production of resources to the passion between the sexes, which is focused through the lens of Malthusian population rhetoric. Of course, Freud doesn't go into population issues, so this is where they diverge. Malthus acknowledged birth control and homosexuality as a population check, but as a clergyman, this went against his religious beliefs. And obviously, it's just a myth because gay people and trans people, they want to have kids too, and they're not all sterilizing themselves like the state forces them to. Anyways, these two amounting to the conceptual merging into the Freudian Malthusian link, a part of the Malthusian matrix that I've proposed, that pervades deeply in society as mentioned, and alluding to corrupting society to royal roots. Reiterating this disturbing scene, adult women fashion models in baby clothes, Honey Boo Boo or 10-year-olds dance on stage with skimpy outfits. The anime loli altering how women and girls are perceived by age-based loopholes, and movies like Poor Things involving sexualizing a baby in an adult woman's body, which grossly continues on Freudian infantile sexuality, though he wasn't the first in his day to think this. Just like men were giving propaganda of libido control to have society function, like any other energy that we use to say that is a flow within society in like a philosophical sense. Because waste sort of gets society flowing in a way, but that's off topic. Anyways, um, it's through some feminist beginning. Uh, it's thought some feminist beginnings took this similar angle, specifically from Nancy Friday's description of Freudian sisterhood. Quote, many feminists who marched 20 years ago gave up men because to love them drained a woman of her newfound sense of identity. To touch on where this connects in my other writings, criticizing Matt Walsh in my version of What is a Woman, how patriarchal frameworks expects women to be and how it organically flourishes in a biological, social, ambiguous reality, and Sigmund Freud questioning what they want. So ultimately, what, who, how, when is a woman throughout history? This may be reaching, but Freud's idea of penis envy is a form of eugenic projection. In the end, it was womb envy, as Karen Horney rightfully claims, creating artificial time capsules for their fantasies. Sexual, DNA manipulation, beauty in the hands of science to the marketing strategy with a time limit. There's a contradictory element of population and libido fertility manipulation. As hierarchy promotes abstinence, marriage, sexuality, etc., it's more a Foucauldian biopolitics of rearranging who gets to do what as the dominant superpower sees it. As Freudian and Malthusian thought instilled heterosexual rhetoric to please the patriarchy, Freud believed everyone was bisexual, but societal abstinence until economic marriage would swing heterosexual most likely, and abstinence to the general public. This was transferred to neoliberal and World Bank framework for poor in the third world. Quote, in many countries, fertility rates have fallen for older, married women, but there is an epidemic of unwanted pregnancy and unsafe sexual practices among youth. World Bank, 1999. Meanwhile, child marriage is allowed in America, adjusting beauty standards as this could be interpreted. One of the normal explanations to these awkward Freudian explanation is that generations wanted freedom to work and be independent, and this caused a war with fundamentalist stay-at-home types wanting their kids to mirror the family model with obsession. As I mentioned, it is merely orchestrated nostalgia, as nothing is perfect like our idealistic imagination makes it out to be. As Nancy Friday would say, no love is perfect. The needing, craving a man was a social construct and post hoc heuristic of the family shrinking ever since, but single parents is where we noticed the problem, which for a time made sisterhood militant when their rhetoric pushed men from the nursery because the man was never there in the first place, so why need them now? Nancy Friday remarks on militant feminism, quote, as usual, the anti-separation people aim their heaviest artillery at men, a false target. Quote, patriarchy thrives by keeping women divided, they write, setting them up to compete with each other. Scientific experts tell mother that each child should separate to achieve autonomy. This is a lie, the militant feminists say. This distorted view of good mothering places a mother's feelings at odds with cultural perceptions of what is necessary for a child's growth and well-being. Moreover, this lie of separation leads mother into an unintentional betrayal of daughters. End quote. But the bottleneck to independence, proper separation from militant mother or father, because of dependent beginnings in human history, the bottleneck came with denial. If you say it enough, it's true eventually, like trying to sleep, despite the feelings of needing someone. The missing community is replaced with reductive daddy and mommy issues promoted by society's control, dependency, and thus psychological Stockholm feedback loop of the individual in love with the image of the perfect man holding the independent woman. In Poor Things, the independence concept is combined with the Freudian infantile baby sexualization, promoting two sick worlds, where the baby becomes independent by being sexed, thus becomes a symbol of strength to other women in the narrative. The irony of Freud in Poor Things is that he didn't think women were sexual entities based on the penis envy myth that women perceive their bodies as developmentally aborted. The desperate projection is schizophrenic in its hypocrisy. We get to waste food but not fix poverty, preventing others from reproducing. We acknowledge population growth decline and overall momentum as it benefits us. We promote abstinence and marriage at later ages in other countries, yet 24 states allow for it at 16. The desperate projection, Malthusian Freudian, as seen through the lens of population through biopolitical means, could be creating this daddy and mommy issues amongst nations into broader individual agencies, as markets have been seen, and so dependent on capitalist forces, angering the cucked father of religious fundamentalism, turning fascist, woman's autonomy caught between neoliberal markets and far-right antagonists. So I guess I didn't cite too many sources here, but you can look at that. So, the desperate projection, I believe, is the Freudian cover-up, which I'm not going to go too deep into right now, but basically the Freudian cover-up is Freud's patients were basically like abuse victims, essentially, and so he projected his psychological analysis onto them to have a certain outcome occur. And so the, there's a certain element or a type of this happening as we lose our families and the children are all on their own, not being educated, not being properly like watched and maintained. They put all their like because nobody's teaching, nobody's like helping them understand what's going on. It's all just propaganda and like self-help and anyways, all these children are just projecting their crippled mentalities to the internet. And again, this is not a mommy or daddy issue, but it's a societal community breakdown issue, as I will continue to say. And it started with workers' rights being destroyed. You know, feminists fought to be able to work and raise their kids. Um, but this was made harder because um, it was said that by having daycare at your work would Sovietize our children and make it more communist. And so this is not the societal model that feminists wanted. And so they make it harder and harder for us to maintain our homes. Uh, and so we need 3 jobs to basically get anything done. All right. I will see you in the next one.